Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to USEFP's virtual workshop on quantitative section. I hope everyone is taking good care of themselves. As we collectively deal with this global pandemic, USEFP have adjusted the nature of their services and have moved sessions online. Since USEFP cannot hold in-person sessions anymore due to the health advisory, you can use this productive time and take benefit of these workshops and information sessions. My name is Dr. Ali Hussain Kazim. I have a PhD in mechanical engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology. My specialization is heat transfer and energy conversion. That is to convert waste heat into something useful. I'm a Fulbright alumni. I'm director of Heat Transfer Lab. I'm focal person for international scholarships, and I'm assistant professor at UET Lahore. So, quantitative section, the math section of GRE. So the contents of this presentations are, we would go through the intro of this section, then we will move to test taking strategies, then we'll mention books for practice, then moving to questions, we will solve a number of questions, and then finally we will devise a strategy of how to move forward, what to do next. So what are the things that you can do after this presentation. So what does GRE assess? The GRE assesses how well you take the GRE. I teach at an engineering university and most of my students have excellent mathematics skills. However, if we were to take a GRE exam of those students, they would not perform that well in it just because they are not familiar with the GRE. So the more familiar you are with these questions, the more used to you're looking at these questions, the better you will be at solving them. So in this workshop, we will go through strategies of how you can increase your familiarity with GRE. So first, what is the breakup of the GRE? So there's an analytical writing section. It has two tasks of 30 minutes each. So then there's a verbal reasoning question having 20 questions per section and 30 minutes per section. Then there's a quantitative reasoning section, the math section having 20 questions as well. And the workshop and each section is for 35 minutes. Then there is an unscored section and a research sketch section. You will not know which of the sections is an unscored section once you will be appearing in the test. So if you get to have one extra section for either verbal or quantitative, you would know that you're getting an unscored section, but you wouldn't know whether which of the two of the three you've attempted is the unscored section. So you have to ensure that you attempt every section as if it counts towards your score. So what does the math section or the quantitative section have? So you have 35 minutes for 20 questions, which makes it roughly approximately 2 minutes or 1 minute 45 seconds for each question. So 7 or 8 questions are quantitative comparison questions. So close to 40% of the questions are quantitative comparison, in which you have to compare which of the sides is bigger, or are they equal, or maybe it cannot be determined. So the remainder of the 12 questions can be multiple choice questions or numeric entry question. So a numeric entry question is one in which no values, no answers would be given. There would be a place where you will have to enter the answer to that question. In the multiple choice, you would have choices from which you can select. So Once again, 7 to 8 are quantitative comparison. So in which you don't have to find the exact answer. You just need to find which of the sides is bigger. We will come to it in a bit. So math section has 20 concepts. So 20 concepts mean that, if you master the 20 concepts, I give you those 20 concepts and you master them, then you should be good. But the thing is that those 20 concepts are, in one question, you can have more than 2 concepts per question. That makes it complicated. So no one question has one single component that they are testing. So one question would have multiple concepts. So you need to be masters at each individual concepts to have an answer at the end. So at the end, it tests your ability to read problems and figure out how to set them up is more important than your ability to calculate. So your ability to read and convert what you read into equations is the most important thing. Each time you read a problem or a statement in a problem, you need to convert that statement into an equation that you can solve. If you can think that you can just, by looking at the question, you can just process the answer and have an educated guess, it won't happen. Just by looking at the answer and not solving, you will most likely get to the wrong answer. You will not get to the right answer. So whenever you are reading a question, try to convert that statement into an equation. Most math errors are careless mistakes caused by not reading the problem carefully enough. So most math errors are careless mistakes. Close to about 70% of the errors are careless mistakes. So because the fact is, the math in the GRE is grade 9 or 10th level mathematics. If you have taken math in class 9 and 10, you must have gone through similar concepts. So you have gone through the maths that is being tested. However, the way the questions are asked is maybe what you are not familiar with. So you need to ensure that in your preparation that you do as much practice as possible to ensure that you're familiar with what is the expectation from this test. So the most important instruction, read and copy carefully. Read and copy carefully. What you read, you need to copy carefully, because the first source of careless errors is that you don't copy the thing correctly. So use it. So make sure once you're reading, you start using the scratch paper. The use of scratch paper is very important in getting to the answer. Calculator, use it unless it is absolutely necessary. So we all have calculators on our laptops, on our computers. How many times have you used it? The calculator on screen of a GRE is similar to the calculator we have it on our Windows. That calculator is not that friendly. It is not easy to use. So make sure that once you use a calculator, only if you are calculating the final answer to that question, that you have solved a series of steps and now you are just calculating the final answer. For that situation, use a calculator, but not use it for every step. So now breakup of questions, MCQ questions, which have 5 options, multiple choice, multiple answer. So multiple choice and multiple answer is that in one question, there might be 2 or 3 options or more which can be correct. So you have to check all those options to get the correct answer. So in a multiple choice and multiple answer, if you suppose there are 3 correct choices and you only check 2 of them, you would not get the full marks for it. So you need to check all the correct options to get the marks for that question. Then the quantitative comparison question. There is no option E in a quantitative comparison question. If a quantitative, so there's no option, there are only 4 options for it. Option number A is bigger, quantity A is bigger. Option number B is quantity B is bigger. Option number C is they are both equal. And option number D is that the information is insufficient and you cannot calculate. So there are 4 options in a quantitative comparison. And I repeat, they make up almost 40% of the questions that are asked in a math section. So mastering how to solve quantitative comparison question would go a long way in getting to the good score. So if quantity A and quantity B are only numbers, it means they are 2 numbers that needs to be compared. So when you have 2 numbers that needs a comparison, option number D, that it cannot be determined, is not an option in that case. Because whenever we have 2 values, numbers on both sides, we are able to calculate it. Compare, don't calculate. Try to compare the 2 sides and not calculate, because if you start calculating, it would take longer time. But questions might require you to calculate. So start by comparing, and if it comes to you can calculate which side is bigger. The 4th question is a numeric entry in which you have to enter, you have to type the correct option. So test taking strategies. There are 2 basic techniques. The first technique is that you take the easy test first. That once the section opens and you start, you know which of them are easy and which of them are difficult, and then you start going through it and you start solving them. So this is the taking easy test first. So the other technique is that you start solving every question as if you're seeing it for the first and the last time. So you give it the required time. So you start solving it. So if you can't figure out the answer, you take an option, mark on a scratch paper that you will come back to it, but don't take more time on it. So this strategy that you're taking it for the first time and you're seeing it for the first and the last time that question, and you're giving it the 2 minutes that it requires, it is very important for students who are beginner at GRE. Because the first technique that to take the easy test first is for an expert GRE test taker who knows that which one is difficult, which one is bad, just by quickly having 10 or 20 seconds looking at the question, and they know, reading the question, that they know that this is a difficult question. So it is for them that they can sort out the difficult, but for a beginner, it is, you can't figure out which one is the easy one. Why? Because you'll take 1 minute in reading, or maybe 45 seconds to read that thing. By the time you are done reading and processing it, it would already be 1.5 minutes. If you then decide to skip a question, you will do it once, you will do it twice, and on the 3rd time you will be like, you have to take the 3rd question, because you cannot just keep on skipping questions. So the strategy that is better is that you attempt all questions as if you're seeing them for the first and maybe the last time, and give it the whole attention that give it the 2 minutes it requires, or 2.5 or 3 if it is difficult. Give it the required time, mark an answer, and then move on. So process of elimination, POE, is very important, and approximating, ballparking, and to know the trap answers is very important. So you have to, in some time, you have to approximate the required answer. So we would go through the approximation as well. and trap answers. Some answers are very obvious. Just with a little bit of working, you are getting to the wrong answer, which is the trap answer. Because daily thousands of people take GRE. So GRE conducted by ETS knows what are the mistakes that we are making. So those mistakes are the answer options they give. So be wary of it, that an answer which is very easy to, which you think is the right answer, even without solving it, most probably it's a trap answer. So I repeat, they know the mistakes you are making, and those mistakes are some of the options that they give us. How to study? So make it slow and steady, that you need to absorb whatever you read, whatever you learn, whether it's verbal section or the quantitative section. Your preparation requires that you completely absorb that concept, you completely absorb that word definition, or you really need to know it to score it in the test section, because the questions that will come would have many concepts in it. One question requiring 2 or 3 concepts would only be possible if you completely absorb a thing. So to let the content sink, to let you able to completely absorb the thing requires you to practice, requires you to give it the necessary time so that it sinks in. So how can you make the content sink? Just by practicing, practicing, and practicing. Only by giving it more and more time, it would become a part of you. And the good thing is that with GRE, the math you do or the English that you will learn would give you, it will stay with you, and it will be helpful to you in many other ways. Now, breakup of math section. So quantitative reasoning question has basic math. So that basic math is mathematics which only has numbers in it. So there are no variables. There are numbers. The question or the word problem has numbers in it. So it is a basic math. Algebra, when it has variables in it, so it is called an algebra. If a question has shapes, cylindrical shape, circle, triangle, some sort of a shape, it classifies as geometry. And if a question has like pie chart, bar chart, statistical data, so that falls into the category of data analysis. So if the question has numbers, basic math. If it has variables, it is algebra. If it has some shapes, it is geometry. And if it has data, it is data analysis. So this is a very broad classification of the 4 sections or four components of basic mathematics. Within each of them, within basic mathematics, there are 10 or more concepts. Within algebra, there are number of concepts. And geometry and data, each one of these sections have basically subsections that you need to master. A few slides ago, I showed you that there's a technique which takes the easy question first. A person who's an expert test taker know that which of these sub-components is a question. So somehow, like if it is data analysis question and the person sees that this is something related to a probability distribution, that component, a person thinks that he might be weak in, then after that sub-classification, one knows that this is a question which one is having difficulty. So each of these sections have questions. So starting with the bottom. So altogether there are 40 questions, 20 questions in each section. So of the 40, there are 6 questions of data analysis, which makes it 15% of the entire grade. 15%, 6 questions, getting those 6 questions right can transform your score. We'll come to that in a bit. Getting 6 questions, working on data analysis and making sure that you get them right would help you significantly. So, and then geometry, approximately 8 questions, and algebra, approximately 10. And basic mathematics, I've not written how many questions for it, because basic mathematics is in the middle, in the bottom 3 components, it requires basic mathematics. It requires multiplication plus, taking percentages, taking ratios. It requires the basic mathematics. So basic mathematics is inside the, the bottom 3 components, but it also has its own components. So basic mathematics has the most highest weightage and also the highest number of contents, highest number of concepts that you need to master. So highest number of concepts are inside the basic mathematics, and algebra has lesser, geometry less, and data analysis even more less. So you need to first figure out which of the components is weak with you, and then you need to work on it accordingly. So now, perhaps the most important slide of this presentation, the resource books that you can use. So I would like to go through them, each one of them. So the first is the ETS GRE Math Review. This is a free book available on ETS website. So this book is the syllabus of the GRE Math. Now everything in the book is the syllabus, and there's nothing outside from this book that might come. So this is basically the boundaries of the concepts of the GRE Math. So mastering this, fully understanding this book would help you improve your score significantly. So that is the good side, that it has all the concepts that are required. However, there is very less practice inside this book. For that, they have the second book, official. This is also from ETS. It has GRE Quantitative Reasoning practice questions. So this book has practice in it. It has many questions. The questions are arranged chapter-wise. However, it does not have a lot of questions. So if you're short on time, if you just have a 1 month and you need to finish things, and maybe so you can use the book number 2 to quickly go through all the concepts. However, the depth of questions, the number of questions is less. Now this third book, big book. This big book is also a book from ETS, but it discontinued. This book discontinued some 20 years and more back. So it got discontinued, doesn't come anymore. So the good thing about this book is that this book again is from ETS, and it has 27 tests, 27 actual past papers of ETS. None of the books that I'm about to mention, I mentioned before or I will mention now, have this much practice. So imagine 27 past papers of ETS. So it has a lot of practice. The plus side is that whether it comes to the concepts of mathematics or the type of passages that might come in the verbal section, the concepts are same. However, the way they asked questions has changed in the past 25 years. So in this question, there might be, for multiple choice question, there might be more options. Plus, back then it used to be a written test, so it was not adaptive. Just like right now, the test sections are adaptive, that if you do the first section well of mathematics, the second section would be slightly difficult. But back then, it was the same difficulty. So this book is really good. One more positive of this book is that once you will solve the questions, then you will, at the end of the book, the answer choices would be there. So it would say, for the first question, option number C was correct. for the 20th question, option number D was correct. Next to the corrected option, there would also be a percentage that how many students who gave this test had this thing corrected. So this will help you figure out that are you making mistakes at easier questions, or maybe it's the hard or medium difficulty question that you're having facing difficulty. So it would help you gauge your performance with other students. So it has a lot of practice. So if you have time, then you should follow this book. You should try to finish this book because it has actual ETS practice. The number 4th book is £5 book for GRE practice problem by Manhattan. So about 3 books are from ETS themselves. The next 3 books that I'm about to mention are from publishers like Princeton, Barron's, who help students do well in their tests. So this £5 book is a very good book in which, because it has a lot of practice problems. The maximum number of problems that one could find is inside this £5 book. The positive side is that all those problems are arranged chapter wise. So you will have set, or one chapter would be called exponents, in which you would have all the exponent questions. Another chapter name might be rate, in which you would have all the rate questions. One chapter might be probability distribution, in which you would have probability distribution. So the practice is arranged chapter wise. The option number 3, the big book, it was practice test in which all the concepts, all the things are mixed in a paper. Now that in £5 book, it is all sorted in chapters. So you can use this book to master the skill, master the concept in which you are weak. Next comes the Princeton review. It's called the Cracking the GRE. It's also a very useful book if you want to know smarter ways of solving a question, how you may get to the answer without solving, and with few steps. This book is really good. And then the number 6 book, Barron's GRE. It has 4 chapters of math, which is also a very good book. So I would recommend that you should concentrate on the first 4 books. An amount of usage of it depends on how much time you have, how much time you can give to your preparation. So before we go into the tests, start solving a few questions, I would just show you the data. So between 2014 and 2017, 17 lakh people gave a verbal, and they had a mean score of 150 with a standard deviation of 8.43. And in the quantitative, slightly more people gave the quantitative section, and they had a mean of 152. And then analytical writing, the mean of 3.5 and 0.87. So average marks in verbal is 150, and average marks in quantitative is 153. So if your marks are above 150 or above 152 in quantitative, it means that you're better than 50% students appearing in the test. Now this scale shows how your marks vary with score with reasoning. So if a person gets 150, it mean that he is better than 47% people. Look at the bottom of the screen. So if he has 150 marks, it means that he's better than 47% people in the verbal and 38% people in the quantitative. So improving your score by 3, and if you come to 153, suddenly you're better than 50% people. That just by adding 3 to your marks, you're better, you will be able better than 12% more, which makes it 50%. So increment of 3 is huge in GRE, that if you're able to improve your score by +3, that takes a lot of effort, that takes a lot of sustained effort, and it's worth it. That if you're able to score +3, so if you look at the verbal, if you have 150, you are better than 47% people. And if you score 153 over here, you are better than 61% people. So your percentile is important in GRE. As you can see, the scale of GRE is not linear. So what is important? Verbal or quantitative score is important. Which of those two is important depends on what admission do you want to take in. So if you want an engineering, if you have to take admission in engineering university or engineering department, your quantitative section it needs to be high for you to make it to that. But if you're applying for some linguistic, English linguistic, or some history, or some social sciences which require a lot of writing, that would require that you need to have good verbal. If a university requires GRE for MBA, then both your quantitative and verbal are equally important. So it depends on what you're looking for and what score you should get. You should obviously aim for the highest score that you can attain. But if you're not, some of the universities tell on the website the scores you require. But at least try to have 50 percentile in both the verbal and the quantitative section. So the 50 percentile for mathematics is at the 153 marks, and for verbal it is at 151 marks. So for quantitative you should at least have 153, and for verbal you should at least have 151, so that you can show that you're better than the average students appearing in the test. However, the ultimate the score requirement would either be available on the university's website, or you can maybe search online that for a certain university, what is normally the GRE score. Next, I would also like to mention the analytical writing score line. So if you look at score at 3, so 3 is next to 17%. So if you score a 3 in GRE analytical writing, you are better than 17% people. And if you score a 3.5, you're better than 41% people. So an increment of 0.5 marks changes your percentile by a huge amount. So depending on where you are, you can focus on just incrementing how to, even if you are able to increment even by 1 in analytical writing, it will go a long way in improving your score. So now I would go through a lot of questions so that you would get a taste of what GRE mathematics is. So I would also like that you would solve these questions with me. So we will go through a lot of questions which will test different concepts of mathematics that might come. So the first question is, what is the quotient and remainder for 19 divided by 7? I would like all of you to pause this video, and each time I give you a question, try to pause, try to solve it for yourself, and then you can look what is the way of solving it, so that you can test yourself as well while you are in this workshop. So 19 divided by 7. So I hope all of you have done it like this. So 7 2s are 14. So the quotient is 2 and the remainder is 5. So I expect all of you to have done this thing. So this is my first question. So I hope all of you have got this thing right. So next question. Minus 73 divided by 10. I would like all of you to pause this video and do this. Minus 73 divided by 10. What is the quotient and what is the remainder? So minus 73 divided by 10. In my experience, less students are able to solve this question correctly. Because we are not in Pakistan, we don't get these questions maybe. So minus 70 divided by 10. So we need to find a quotient which is just less than minus 73. So multiplying it by minus 8, we get minus 80. So minus 80 is less than minus 73. If I had multiplied by minus 7, I would have got here minus 70, which would have been more than minus 73. So 10 into minus 8, so we get minus 80 over here. So over here we would get 7. So the quotient is minus 8 and remainder is 7. So this question, for those of you who got it right, well done. For those of you who got it wrong, it is most probably because you're not familiar with solving it, so you weren't able to solve it. So the quotient for this question is minus 8 and the remainder is 7. So next question. When the positive integer n is divided by 3, the remainder is 2. When n is divided by 5, the remainder is 1. What is the least possible value of n? Again, pause this video and try to solve it. And give yourself 2 minutes to solving it, and then you can come back to this video and know the solution. So n is a number which is divided by 3, the remainder is 2. So n divided by 3, the remainder is 2. So what is the smallest value of n? So think of the table of 3. 3 ones are 3, 3 twos are 6. All 3, 6, 9, 12, the thing that we get in the tables, have a remainder 0 if we divide by 3. So 3 divided by 3, if we do it, the remainder is 0. 6 divided by 3, remainder is 0. 9 divided by 3, remainder is 0. But we want a remainder which is 2. So we need to add 2 to the values inside that table. So if we divide, so 3 ones are 3. If we divide 3 divided by 3, remainder is 0. But if we add 2 to it, the first, so 2 to it. So then the first thing is 5. What I'm saying is that the table of 3, so I'm not writing the left hand side, I'm just, okay, so 3 2s are 6 is 3 2s is 6, 3 3s are 9. So if we divide it by 3, we would get a remainder 0, but we want a remainder which is 5. So we need the values. If we need to add 2 to it. So 5, 8, 11. Now if we divide these numbers with 3, we would get a remainder which is 2. Now going back to the question, when n is divided by 5, the remainder is 1. So also n might be one of these numbers, but n is divided by 5, the remainder is 1. So again, we want a remainder 1 if we divide n by 5. So 5 multiplied by 1 equals 5. 5 multiplied by 2 is 10. 3 is 15. So we want a remainder which is 1. So we need to add, if we add 1 to each of these value, so we would get 6 here. So 6 divided by 5, remainder is 1. 11 divided by 5, remainder is 1. So 6, 11, 16. Next is 21. So we need to find the least value of n. So n is thing which is common. N is a thing which is common in this column and this column. So what is the least value of n, which is in both components? It is 11. So 11 is common in both. So 11 is the least value of n. So next is prime divisors of 144. So what is a prime divisor? So I would like to remind all of you, prime divisor is a number greater than 1 which has a factor of 1 and only itself. 1 and only itself. So you need to remember the first 10 prime numbers, because those prime numbers are given inside the first book I mentioned, which I say is like the syllabus of it. So the first 10 prime numbers are something that you need to remember. The first prime numbers are so you need to remember these prime numbers, and in your time before the test, in which there's time to read the instructions, you need to write these numbers on the scratch paper, because whenever the prime number question comes in the exam, it would be dealing with these questions, with these numbers. So what are the prime divisors of 144? So if you start making factors of 144, So if you start making factors, so if you start making factors of it, once you will start making factors of it and you factorize it to the prime factors, you would find that there are only two prime, there'll be only two factors. So if 2 is divided by 144, it is 172. If it is again divided by 2, it is 36. Divide again, it becomes 18. Divide again, it becomes 9. So 9, then you divide it by 3. So in the end, it has 2 into 2 into 2, 2 in 2 raised multiplied by 4 times into 3 into 3, which are the factors. Of these factors, there are two factors in it, which are prime, which is 2 and 3. So important thing is in prime divisors is that you first remember what are the prime numbers. So remembering these numbers is very important. Next question, which is a common question of GRE. Read this question and pause this video. So this is a series of numbers. So the first three terms, -2, 3, and -5, they keep on repeating. We need to find the products of number from 81st to 85th. So pause this video and solve it yourself. So we need to get to the 81st term. If we know the 81st term, then we know the pattern that is in front of us and we can count, we can know the numbers after that. So we need to get to the 81st term. So the strategy to get this thing is that so if you divide 81st, that is the term we want to get to, by the pattern that is repeating. So there are three terms that keep on repeating. So if we divide it, we would get here 27, so we're getting a quotient of 27 and a remainder of 0. So which means that this pattern of three terms has completed 27 times. It has been keep on going on and on for 27 times. And in 27 times, it has completed itself 27 times. So it is having no remainder, which means that the cycle of repeating three terms have been fully completed. The 81st term is term number -5. So we need to take the product of 81st to 85th term. So 81st term is -5, then 82nd term is this, 83rd, 84th, and 85th. So we need to take the product of it. The product of it is -5 into -2 is 10, 10 into 3 is 30, 30 into -5 is -150, and into -2 is 300. 10, 30, So okay, 10, 30. Yes, so the answer or product of these is 300. So let's suppose they would have asked us to take the product of 82nd to 85th term. So then again, we would have done it like this: 82nd term, the term we need to get to, divided by the pattern which is repeating. Again, 27 would have come here, 81, and the remainder is 1. This would have meant that the pattern repeated 27 times. However, there is one more term which is after it. So the pattern completed it 27 times, we got to the -5, and then we are at the next term after it. So we would have to start multiplying from -2. Now, this is the first question for quantitative comparison. These questions are very important. So quantity A is the greatest number of consecutive non-negative integers which had a sum less than 22. Quantity B is 6. We need to figure out which quantity is bigger. So pause this video and try to solve this question yourself. So consecutive non-negative integer which has a sum less than 22. So what is, we need to find the greatest number of the non-consecutive. We need to find the greatest number of digits which have a sum less than 22. So to get, what is the smallest non-negative integer we have? The smallest non-negative integer is 0. 0 is a very important integer. 0 and 1 are very important integer. ETS tests these two a lot. So if we start writing 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we go on. These are numbers. So we need to find the greatest number of consecutive integers having sum of. So 0 plus 1, 1. 1 plus 2, 3. 3 plus 3, 6, 10, 15, 21. So by adding from 0 to 6, we get a sum of 21. After it would become 28. So adding all of them together, so we have a sum which is less than 22, which is 21. So how many digits did we wrote? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the answer to quantity A is 7. So quantity A is bigger. If the question was greatest number of consecutive positive integers, so then 0 would have not been there. So 0 is the only integer which is neither positive nor negative. So answer in that case, quantity A would have been 6. So in that case, the correct option would have been C. So you need to be familiar with the properties of 0 and 1. For this question, the most people who solve this question forget that 0 needs to be included in the set of numbers because it's a non-negative number. Now this question is a word problem. A merchant sells 3 types of canned tomatoes. A large can costs as 5 medium cans or 7 small cans. If a customer purchases an equal number of small and large cans for the same amount of money needed to buy 200 medium cans, how many small can she purchase? So you can pause this video again and start solving this. So this question is an example of how you have to convert everything that you read in an equation. So merchant sells 3 different types of canned tomatoes. One large can costs as much as 5 medium cans. So one large can equals as much as 5 medium cans, or one large equal 7 small cans, which makes 5 medium cans equals 7 small cans. So if a commercial, the next line, if a customer purchases an equal number of small and large cans of tomatoes. So let's suppose the merchant purchase n number of small and large cans. N number into S plus n number into M equals 200, sorry, n into n number of large cans equal 200 medium cans. How many small cans does she purchase? So we have 4 equations having 4 variables, which means that we can solve this equation. So the correct answer, we have to find the value of n. If you solve these equations simultaneously, the answer would come out to be 35. So important thing is that once you read first time and then once you read the second time, you need to convert what you read into equations so that you can solve them. So next question is an exponent question. This question is good in a way that just by looking at this question, you know that this question is an exponent question, and you can categorize and you can practice. If you master the exponent, you will definitely get 2 questions right in your GRE exam, and they're very easy to classify. So practice this section a lot. Practice the exponent section a lot. So solve this question yourself. So quantity A, 2 raised to power minus 4. So 2 raised to power minus 4, so that is equals to 1 over 16. 4 raised to power minus 2, that becomes 4 square, which is 16. So this left hand side equals 1. The right hand side, it says take the positive square root of 64. If there is if there is no negative sign next to the square root, you would not take the negative root of it. So square root of 64 is plus 8. So plus 8 minus 2 raised to power 3. So minus 2 raised to power 3 is minus 8. So this right hand side is equals to minus 1. So quantity A is bigger. So next question is a classic question of rate that always, that similar question always come in the exam. So a batch of computer part consists of n identical parts, where n is a multiple of 60. Working alone at its constant rate, machine A takes 3 hours to produce a batch of computer parts. So working alone, machine A takes 3 hours to complete the n parts. Working alone at its rate, machine B takes 2 hours to produce the same batch of computers. How long will it take two machines working simultaneously at their respective constant rates to produce batch of computers? So you need to, so there's machine A which takes 3 hours, machine B which takes 2 hours. How much time will they take if they work together? So you can pause this video and solve it yourself. So the way to solve it is that working alone, so n is a multiple of 60, which is n might be 60 parts, it might be 120 parts, it might be 180 parts. So machine A takes 3 hours. So machine A completes n parts in 3 hours. In 1 hour, machine A would complete n over 3 parts. Machine B completes n parts in 2 hours. In 1 hour, machine B would complete n over 2 parts. Now let's say both machines working together would take x hours to complete n parts, which means that both working them together in 1 hour would finish n over x parts. So in 1 hour, so if we can add n over 3, which is the rate of machine A, plus the rate of machine B, which is n over 2, that should be equals to n over x. That would give you an x value of 1.2 hours. If you solve this equation on the left hand side, it would give you x equals 1.2 hours. So this question of rate is very common question. It comes a lot in the exam. So master this thing as well. So my purpose is to show you a variety of questions that might come in the exam. Of course, this would not be exhaustive. The next question. A group can charter a particular aircraft at a fixed cost. If 36 people charter the aircraft rather than 40 people, then the cost per person is greater by $12. What is the fixed cost to charter the aircraft? What is the cost per person if 40 people charter the aircraft? So there's an aircraft in which 36 people eventually went to and they, instead of 40 people. So once the 36 people, the cost was shared among the 40 people, it was $12 more. So we have to find what is A part, what is the fixed total cost. So let's say the fixed total cost is T. So if 36 people were going, per person the cost is T divided by 36. If 40 people were going, it was T divided by 40. The difference between the two is given to be $12. So if you solve this equation, you would get to the answer so if you solve this question simultaneously. So the answer would come out to be 4320. So total cost is 4320. And what is the cost per person charter the plane? That is, if there are 40 people, 4320 divided by 40. Come out to be 108. So now comes a data analysis question. So data analysis questions are very easy to cover. You can easily identify the data analysis question. So the first thing, once a data analysis question comes in, you need to read the title of the chart. So it says percent of population in New England by state from year X and year Y. So it gives you percentage of population by state. And then if you can see after reading the title, you read the axis, what is written the axis, x-axis and the y-axis. So there are 1, 2, 3, 6 states that are given, and you need to find information regarding. So year X, the total population, then you need to read the legend. So year X, total population was 15 million. Year Y, the population increased to 25 million. So in the first question, if the 6 England states are ranked by population in year X and year Y, how many states would have a different ranking from year X to year Y? So in year X, which state had the maximum population? It was Massachusetts. So Massachusetts had the then it was Connecticut, then it was Maine, then it was Rhode Island, then it was New Hampshire, and then it was Vermont. So in year X, this was the ranking of the population in the different states. In year Y, again Massachusetts was number 1, Connecticut was number 3, and third was Rhode Island. And after Rhode Island, it was New Hampshire. After New Hampshire, it was Maine, and then Vermont. So the question was, how many states had a different ranking from year X to year Y? So in year X and Y, Massachusetts, Connecticut had the same ranking. Vermont had the same ranking. And the in between, Maine, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island, they exchanged places. So the correct answer is 3 states had a different ranking in year number Y. So data analysis questions would not come alone. There'll be a series of questions. So you need to first absorb what is the title saying, what is the title, then read what is in the axis, then the legend, and then you can read what the question is saying. This was the first question related to data analysis. So now the second question related to it, in year X, the population of Massachusetts was approximately what percent of Vermont? So comparison of Massachusetts with Vermont. So we need to find the percentage of it. So it is, so if you can see that this, you have to find a percentage, which is a basic math question. So basic math, like I said earlier, basic math is in every component. So it is a data analysis question, but the skill required to solve it also requires basic math. So Massachusetts in year X was 40%. It was 40% of the total population. And Vermont was how much? It was 5%. So 40 divided by 5 into 100 equals 800%. So the answer is 800%. Then another question. A water jug with a capacity of 20 gallons is 20% full. At the end of every third day, water is added to the jug. The amount of water added is 50% of the water in the jug at the beginning of that day. How many days does it take for the jug to be 85% full? So initially it is 20% full. How much time, how many days it would take to be 85% full? So solve it yourself. So initially it is 20% full. So the total capacity of it is 20 gallon. Total capacity is 20 gallon. And it's 20% full, which means that it is 4 gallon at the start of the first, when it starts the first day. At the third day, what is added? So at the third day, on the third day, 50% of what is present on that day is added. So at the start of the third day, it had 4 gallons. So 2 gallons were added. So it became 6 gallons. Sixth day, it became 50% of 6 is 3. So it became 9 gallons. Then on the ninth day, 4.5 was added to it. It becomes 13.5. 12th day, 13.5 half is 6.75 something. So it becomes 19 point something. So what we were supposed to find, how many days does it take to be 85% full? What is 85% or 20 gallon? Is 19 gallons. So on what day? it became 19 gallons. It came on the 12th day. We had it more than 19 point something. So it was at least 19 gallons. So 12 answer number C is the correct answer. So next question is regarding a probability distribution. So W is a random variable that is normally distributed with a mean of 5 and a standard deviation of 2. What is the probability that W is greater than 5? So the only distribution that is in GRE is the normal distribution. And one thing that you will have to remember about a normal distribution is the shape of the normal distribution. So 50% of the data is above the mean. So this center is the mean value. Mean in this case is 5. 34% data is here. %14 is here, 2% is here. So same is for the left hand side, 34% data. So this vertical lines are 1 standard deviation. So standard deviation in this question is 2. So this is 5 plus 1 standard deviation is 7. 7 plus 2, 9. So the first part, how many? So on the left hand side is also same, 34% is, so 5 minus 1 standard deviation is 3. 3 minus 1 standard deviation is 1. So probability that W is between 3 and 7 is 34% plus 34%, which comes out to be 68%. Which of the, then the second part, which of the 4 numbers is the best estimate for probability which is less than -1? So here, the probability here was 2%, which was less than, the 2% is less than 1. So they've asked, so 2% is 0.02. 2% means 0.02. So there is only one number which is less than 0.2, which is 0.01. So the correct option is 0.01. So I hope you managed to gain some knowledge about what are the different questions that comes in the GRE exam. So bottom line is that you need to gain familiarity with what the ETS question offers, what are the difficult questions they have, what you find difficult. What are the next steps you need to do? You need to make an account on ETS. After you have made the account on ETS, there are 2 power prep tests which are freely available on the website. Give that test in the real exam conditions, that lock yourself in a room, try not to focus on those 2 to 3 hours that you have to sit in the exam, and find your score which comes at the end. Once you know your score, write that score down. And also, for your first test, write down what you found to be difficult. So knowing your score is the start of how you want to improve your thing. Next, you can watch a quantitative workshop by a Fulbright alumnus, Heather Shishmahal. He gave a workshop on quantitative, and you may also learn different things that he shared. So after that, what's the plan? The plan depends on what score, how many hours you can put in, what score you require. So complete one test per day from Big Book. If you can do that, that is very good, in which you can actually practice the real questions. And you can also time them and see what is your speed. It is especially useful also for the reading comprehension question. No book would have better practice than this. Then spend at least 30 minutes to recheck what you did wrong. Identify which concept was it mathematics, was it data analysis, was it probability, which concept was weak, highlight it. Once after doing 2, 3, 4 tests, you would know which are your problem areas. Then you need to do it, you need to practice them really well. And Manhattan book, 5-pound book would be very useful in making sure that you become familiar with the topic. You become a master in that topic. So do that. So if you have less time, then you can finish the official ETS book. The questions in it are less, so it will be quicker to solve. But I would strongly advise that you start using the Manhattan book, start using the big book to get the actual question practice. So I hope this workshop was helpful. So I would go through some of the questions that have been asked. One of the question is, how important is GRE? So GRE is the only test, is the score gives a quantitative value of your performance. So it is the only value apart from your GPA, which one has of what your overall performance. Yes, TOEFL also gives a value, but GRE is weighted higher when it comes to getting admissions into universities. So your GPA score is important. And the other score that which is important, which tells something about you, is your GRE score. The GRE score is very important. So you can put in the effort, you can put in the time, and you can improve that score. And that would significantly increase your chances of admission. What is a good score? So like I mentioned earlier, that getting to admission, there are top rank, middle rank, and bottom rank universities. The higher you score, obviously, the higher your chances in getting into a good university. But depending on what is more important, maybe for you, math is more important than the verbal, or maybe verbal is more important than mathematics. You need to figure out that thing first and focus your energies accordingly. So at least try to score the 50th percentile, which is for mathematics, it is 153, and for English, it is 151. So at least be better in both the components than the 50% of the people appearing in the test. How much time should I study to get an improvement? So your improvement, how much, the more you, obviously the more time you will put in, the more you'll improve. But the thing is that improving your score in +3 or +4 is a realistic goal for a month sustained effort. So if you can improve your score +4 in either of the components and +8 in 2 months, that will significantly improve your chances into the university that you want to get into. So I would say that improving score by +3 and +4 in a month's effort is a sustainable, it's a realistic goal, but it would require a lot of effort. Math is not important for me. Can I skip the math section and do the verbal only? Don't do this, because both your math and verbal section get reported. So don't skip a section. Attempt all of the questions, attempt all of the sections. There is no negative marking, so attempt all the questions. So I hope through this workshop, you learned a lot about what are the different ways how to improve your score. And I hope that you can put in the effort and have your scores improve greatly. So with that, I would like to thank you all. So this workshop has been organized by USEFP. You can follow USEFP on the Facebook, Twitter pages, and this video will also be available on the YouTube. Thank you all. Make most of this time and try to improve your scores. Take care.